So life is life, with all the consequences. So we are back again after a short technical issue, and we will go now into the last session of our dialogue meeting of today. This is dedicated to recommendations and lessons learned from JPI Urban Europe, and the team has prepared some insights for this final round of the presentation. Hans Günther, please.
Thank you very much, Michael. Welcome back, everyone. I hope many of you could make it. This is just a little wrap-up of our discussions and of the things that were presented to you. And it's meant to repeat in a nutshell what we think is important when setting up a new program or expanding a program like what we do in the co-funded partnerships. Mind you, this is a transnational research and innovation funding initiative network. It's not governed by any binding contracts, except for a grant agreement that we hope to get from Horizon Europe. And it needs a lot of benevolent contributions from everyone around the table, which means also that if we wanted to be successful and to work out over a number of years, we need to also create the structures that are the basis for something like a joint program. And for us, the number one thing to do is a program management. Because joint programming is not just a series of joint calls. It requires consistent planning. It requires ongoing valorization of the results that we create and that we get from joint actions and joint calls. And it requires timely execution also, because you can't wait too long to introduce the next topics, because this might be too late if you have a certain mission in mind or a certain goal in mind. So the program management team that was presented by Christoph is for us the centerpiece of our program. Together, of course, with the collaboration of the funding agencies. And on top of that, as we explained in the beginning, is a group of delegates which give the policy background and the policy backing for the whole initiative. Then we talked about trust being the main glue, of course, of the network. This involves very much new countries, and wide countries that often in the European Union and work with the European Commission, we have buzzwords which refer to something where you try to be not too explicit in an unpolite way, and this is one of them. Widening countries in the EU refers to countries that have recently joined the European Union and who find it often challenging to integrate themselves in the research and innovation funding mechanisms that we have. Of course, it could be seen as going beyond the EU as well, because widening would suggest such an ambition. But for now, for us, it has been integrating those countries which recently joined the EU and who often don't have the very differentiated research and innovation funding landscape that we have in other countries. So that's where we think those countries need to be invited on board. We think that the best thing that we can do is to really see how they can be specifically involved in any of our activities, and even more specifically, how we can offer coordinating roles to them. This is not an easy thing, because coordinating roles also means that they should be able to deliver, and that they should be able to demonstrate the ambition on their side that's necessary for that. We've been lucky in that many of those countries have delivered, that they have grown into our network, and even achieved some leadership status in certain aspects, and we are very proud of that together, I think, and we should be proud of that, because it means that we also deliver on the dream of Europe, that we're all one family of countries and one large economy, also when it comes to the European research area. Now, this also goes into the joint calls. Funding research across borders also means that we should enable one another to spend some money in a joint call. And we've talked about, we've heard from Johannes about the bottlenecks, more or less, that can come up in a co-funded call, where we are bound by our grant agreement with the European Commission to funding projects down a list of a ranking list of evaluated proposals. And often, as you can imagine, after the fifth project, one of the countries that's been part of most of those 5 projects is broke already, has spent all of their budget. Now, we have to develop, and we are currently developing mechanisms which ensure that every single funding agency should be able to fund at least one project in a given joint call. That's, I think, a basis of one of the things that keeps the trust, in a funding network. Monitoring is an interesting thing. When you start an activity, you're just in over your head, and you try to make it work, right? And you try to set up the structures, and you try to get the budget and everything. Now, if you want to establish a joint program, I think you should, and we want to consider program monitoring as well as project monitoring from the very beginning, to install a mechanism, a system that helps us do that. And Johannes also showed us how we've gone about doing this. When it comes to the stakeholders,
I see that more and more people are reconnecting. I just want to loop them in and let you know that we have started just a couple of minutes ago this last session on recommendations, and we are in the middle of Hans Günther's presentations. We have 4 minutes to go for this session, so just be aware that we should not become too long.
Right. So monitoring, we just covered monitoring for everyone. Now, our recommendation when it comes to stakeholders, meaning the target groups that we want to reach, that's an important thing. This is like our sounding board of sorts, right? So what we have, for example, in the JPI Europe, is what we call the Agora, which is a Greek word for marketplace. It's also something where we need to give those stakeholders clear roles. Otherwise, they just sit around the marketplace with nothing to do, and we lose them over time. So we need to give them clear tasks to report, to agree among themselves, to also form groups which help us work forward. So in our case, for example, we have cities. So cities form one group. Companies, business or industry forms one group, and the researchers form one group. We allow them to be represented in our governing board as non-voting members, to really have a transparent way of communication with them. So I think stakeholders' involvement always has to do with clear roles and a clear understanding of those roles. Yeah, and what we also try to make sure is that our national programs, which are the funding base for our transnational research and innovation funding collaboration, that those national programs stay well connected with our transnational undertaking. So that's a difficult thing, because the goals that you have on a national level and on the transnational level are often very different. Still, an ongoing dialogue is important, and also an ongoing dialogue to the decision makers and to those people who represent your country in the different committees in Horizon Europe. So I think this ongoing dialogue also with the set plan, I think, is crucial. The co-fund distribution, we've talked about this. It's always important to be very clear about what we expect from one another in terms of budgets, in terms of approaching stakeholders, also in terms of being able to raise, for example, to your budget after a call, because you don't want others to pay for your bottlenecks, more or less. Joint actions. This is something that is clearly beyond joint calls. If we're just a call machine, I think we're not able to do joint programming at all. And as we know, 85% of all European money is spent on a national level. So why not link money that we spend on national levels to our joint transnational work? But in order to make this possible and fruitful, we have to put teams in place who really look after those joint actions. And Johannes also talked a bit about the specific calls that we had to work with cities as our main stakeholders, and that's one action that we have to be very careful about. Last but not least, we've spent much money on communication and dissemination from the very first joint calls. This is important because we want to stay in touch with those who are the recipients of our funding, but also who are recipients of the results created in programs. So in both directions, we have those stakeholders together, organize meetings for them, organize ways to give feedback, and last but not least, to let everyone know that we are here and we are able to deliver in, for example, in our case, in the transformation of cities in a sustainable way. I think these are the main learnings that we could distill from our work in the last 8 to 10 years. And well, I would like to hand over to Susanne and also Johannes to just add a few more comments.
Thank you very much, Hans Günther. Thank you for these insights. And I think as you are going to develop the new urban transition partnership, driving urban transition partnership, there will be a lot of occasions where we will meet again in order to collaborate also between the two partnerships, the clean energy transition and the driving urban transition. We saw, I think, today from your presentations that there are very many elements that we will be able to collaborate on, as I think we should, or we are all, I think, committed to avoid duplications, as we want to save our resources anyway, and to be efficient as possible. And I think that we will show in one of the upcoming events, and you will find that there are also some elements that maybe you can use from our side, and this could become a fruitful exchange. For instance, we will not, separately build a partner network with cities, as you have a very strong network. It would be much better, I think, to collaborate on this, and there will be other aspects, I think, like this. Yeah, Gunther is writing in the chat that she has to leave us as we are over time already now due to our technical issues. Thank you everyone out there for listening to the second event of the Programmes Dialogues in preparation of the Clean Energy Transition Partnership. Thank you very much to the presenting team, Susanne, Hans Günther, and Johannes is still online. We miss Christoph now in this final round, but greetings also out to Christoph. Thank you very much for my co-moderators helping me to raise good questions. Gerdi, thank you very much. And Frederick, we are looking forward to the next upcoming events and see you all next Friday. Have a nice weekend.